The chairman's test. The fluorescent lights of Terminal C buzzed overhead as Marcus Chen adjusted the strap of his leather bag. At 28 years old, he had learned to dress down when traveling alone, a habit born from too many uncomfortable encounters. Today, he wore a simple gray hoodie, dark jeans, and white sneakers. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed wealth or power. He approached gate 47 with his phone in hand, boarding pass glowing on the screen. First class, seat 2A. Summit Airlines Flight 392 to Chicago. His father's airline, though nobody here knew that yet. Boarding pass, please, the flight attendant said, her name tag reading Brenda Walsh. She was middle-aged, blonde, with sharp blue eyes that narrowed the moment they landed on Marcus. He held up his phone. First class, seat 2A. Brenda's lips pressed into a thin line. She glanced at the screen, then back at Marcus, her gaze scanning him from head to toe. Sir, this is first-class boarding. Economy boards in Group 5. I know, Marcus said calmly. I am in first class. Sir, I need to see your actual ticket. Her voice carried across the gate area. Other passengers turned to watch. An elderly white couple in expensive coats whispered to each other. A businessman in a suit smirked. Marcus switched to his email, pulled up the confirmation. Here. Purchased 2 weeks ago. Seat 2A. Brenda barely looked. These can be faked. Do you have another form of identification? A credit card that matches the purchase. Heat crept up Marcus's neck, but he kept his voice steady. My ID matches my boarding pass. That's all I need to board. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. Brenda waved forward a white woman in yoga pants and a designer handbag. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Patterson. Right this way. Marcus didn't move. I have a valid ticket. I'm not stepping aside. Brenda's face flushed red. She picked up her radio. Security to gate 47. We have a situation. The terminal went quiet. Phones came out. Videos started recording. Marcus felt dozens of eyes on him, that familiar weight of judgment, assumption, prejudice. He had felt it in boardrooms, in restaurants, in country clubs. Even with degrees from Stanford and Wharton hanging on his office wall, even with his name on company documents, he still faced this point. 2 security guards arrived within minutes. The taller one, Paul, had kind eyes. The shorter one, Jenkins, looked annoyed before he even heard the story. What's the problem? Paul asked. Brenda pointed at Marcus like he was a threat. This man is trying to board first class with what I believe is a fraudulent ticket. He refuses to provide proper identification. I showed her everything, Marcus said, keeping his hands visible, non-threatening. My boarding pass, my confirmation email, my driver's license. Everything matches. Jenkins crossed his arms. Sir, if the flight attendant says there's an issue, we need to sort this out away from the gate. There is no issue, Marcus said, frustration finally bleeding into his tone. I bought this ticket. It's my seat. I'm being removed because she doesn't think I belong in first class. That's not true. Brenda's voice pitched higher. I'm following protocol. He could have stolen that ticket, hacked an account, anything. You can't be too careful these days. A black woman in the economy line spoke up. He showed you everything you asked for. Why isn't that enough? Ma'am, please stay out of this, Jenkins said. Marcus pulled out his phone one more time. I'm making one call before you remove me. One call. No calls, Jenkins said, reaching for Marcus's arm. You're coming with us. Don't touch me, Marcus said, stepping back. His heart pounded, but he kept his voice level. I know my rights. I'm not resisting, but I'm allowed one phone call. Paul held up a hand. Let him call. We've got time. Marcus dialed. It rang twice. Dad. It's happening again. Gate 47. Summit 392. He hung up. The security guards exchanged glances. Who was that? Paul asked. You'll see, Marcus said quietly. I'll go with you. No trouble. But you'll want to wait about 5 minutes. They escorted him away from the gate, past the staring passengers, past Brenda's satisfied expression. They took him to a small security office with white walls and plastic chairs. Marcus sat down, crossed his arms, and waited. 3 minutes passed. Then the door burst open. Susan Torres, the airport manager, rushed in, her face pale and panicked. Where is he? Where's Marcus Chen? Behind her came Richard Chen, a distinguished man in his 60s wearing an impeccable navy suit. Behind him, 3 lawyers in dark clothing carrying briefcases. Jenkins stood up straight. Who are you? Richard Chen's voice was ice. I'm Richard Chen, chairman and majority owner of Summit Airlines. This is my son, Marcus Chen, your future CEO. And you just removed him from one of my planes based on nothing but the color of his skin. The room went silent. Paul's face drained of color. Jenkins looked like he might be sick. Susan turned to the guards. Get Brenda Walsh in here. Now. Within minutes, Brenda stood in the security office, her confidence evaporating as she recognized Richard Chen from company newsletters, promotional materials, board meetings. Mr. Chen, she stammered. I didn't know, I had no idea. He didn't say anything, he shouldn't have to. Richard cut her off. My son presented valid documentation. His name matched his ID. His boarding pass was legitimate. But none of that mattered to you, did it? You saw a young black man in casual clothes and decided he didn't belong. Tears welled in Brenda's eyes. I was just following protocol. I thought. You thought wrong, Susan said sharply. You're suspended effective immediately pending a full investigation. Summit Airlines has zero tolerance for discrimination. Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady despite the anger burning in his chest. This isn't about me. I can make a phone call and fix this. But what about the thousands of passengers who can't? What about every other black traveler who gets profiled, questioned, removed, and humiliated with no recourse? The lawyers were already typing on tablets, pulling up security footage, documenting everything. Richard placed a hand on his son's shoulder. We're going to make this right. Company-wide anti-discrimination training, mandatory bias education, civilian oversight for complaints, and a public commitment to equality. Marcus stood, looked at Brenda. I hope you learn from this. I really do. Because people like you make traveling while black feel like a crime. They walked back to gate 47 together. Passengers still waited, phones still recorded. Marcus boarded the plane to scattered applause from passengers who had witnessed everything. He settled into seat 2A, finally. As the plane taxied down the runway, Marcus closed his eyes. The fight wasn't over. It never really was. But today, justice had won a small battle. Today, the voices of the ignored had been heard, and sometimes, that was enough to keep hoping. The plane lifted into the sky, carrying Marcus toward Chicago, toward the future, toward change.